Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Sunday, April 28th, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much, and if you could kindly hit the like button, guys, that would be terrific. Alright guys, well, this is part 2 of a two-part series on the Azores, and in my first part, I read a couple of articles. One was about the many pyramids found there. The stone sort of step pyramid types. There's over 140 pyramids found in one specific area of one particular island. And how about, the Portuguese government has always contended, since the islands were first discovered by the Portuguese in the 15th century, that it was never inhabited by anybody before. When they got there were no inhabitants, and they draw that conclusion, which I find a bit disingenuous, because how could you possibly get there, find 140 pyramids, stone-built step pyramids, and say, oh, nobody's been here before? I highly doubt that. The story is nonsense. It's a BS story. So, in any case, the second part of it went over how there could be this, Finnish Lapland, link with the Azores and North America by way of some native peoples here in Georgia who somehow have DNA from the Basques and other strange DNA that shouldn't be there. And I actually have gone over this in a video, a similar thing in one of my videos, the Windover Bog People, revisionist history and knowledge filter, about this site in Florida, Windover, where in 1982, they were doing some construction and they came across some skeletons. They dug these skeletons up. There's like 180 of them. There was brain material, so they were able to do DNA analysis, okay? And when they did the DNA analysis by private laboratory, at least one, and they came up with European DNA similar to what they were talking about in that article, okay? But yet here we are in the 20-teens, and you have a panel from Florida here debating over whether they should get more DNA results because they just don't agree with the ones that they have, or they can't say it because of political correctness, okay? I go over that in my video there, and I talk about the Windover Bog People. So if you're interested, it's very interesting. These people were unusual. They didn't match Native Americans, and they found some unusual items among them in this burial. 180 of them, all right, from 7,000 or 8,000 years ago. All right, guys, so I wanted to cover the rest of the article. That lady who's really like a hero, all right, a Portuguese post-grad student who sort of fought the government and her higher-ups to get, permission to do archaeology there based on her own studies and research on her own dime and everything else. So I'm going to continue reading that article. I want to try to get through it quick because I want to show these sort of starport islands, which I think is what the Azores really is. It's like a starport island group, if we can call it that, because it seems to be remnants of an old starport there, maybe back from even older times, because Portugal has a number of starports that are just amazing in country, like this one, for example. Okay, built at later dates. The one on the island, the ones that we find, the constructions that we find on the islands here, which Christy McGowan, gave me the lead to, and I looked into it a little bit, and you see some very fine construction there, which almost looks like megalithic construction, and then you see some very crude repairs. And the stories don't make sense, and it's starting off with a lie anyway, okay, because they say the Portuguese have always contended that there was nobody who inhabited these islands, yet there's, 140 pyramids down there. Ridiculous. They're starting off with a lie. So 2013, they sort of came to their senses, and I guess after a lot of pleading and, you know, begging and everything else, this woman was able to get permission to do further archaeological research. So I want to continue from that because that's where I ended from the first one. All right. And this is a major, I mean, you know, the Azores itself is such an important and key site because if this really was a stopover point to the New World for the Phoenicians or any other civilization of the past, and as you saw in the satellite images of the ocean floor, the geography of the ocean floor there with all these weird sort of causeways and lengthy roadways and whatnot. I mean, the sea was, had receded, several hundred feet or more or whatever, according to them, because of the ice age, which I think is baloney. Just we got more water here because of war. H2O is an electrical phenomenon. But in any case, I just find it hard to believe that, they didn't know this place had previous inhabitants. It's ridiculous. Okay, so let's read in 2013. Okay, so we're talking in recent times that, these people contended for 500 years that there was no previous inhabitants there. Okay. In 2013, that commission declared that any perceived remnants of an ancient civilization were either natural rock formations or structures of more modern origin. However, Antonieta Costa, a postdoctoral student at the University of Porto in Portugal, remained unconvinced to continue to research the hypothesis that the Azores were inhabited in antiquity and even in prehistory, so prehistoric times, guys. Early this month, Costa had a meeting with the Regional Secretary of Education and Culture for the Azores, Avelino de Menezes. De Menezes was one of the experts to sign off on the government report denying the antiquity of the artifacts. But Costa told Epoch Times via email that de Menezes has now expressed an openness to her hypothesis. Excuse me, guys. After years of being denied government permission to conduct archaeological investigations on the Azores, Costa has now some government support for her research. Quote, after years of being denied government permission to conduct archaeological investigations on the Azores, Costa now has some government support for her research. Okay, so that's a very, very good thing. And, this lady's very brave. And she has some very out-of-the-box ideas and sort of alternative perception of the past. I mean, she has, you'll see in the rest of the article here. The theory of Phoenician New World contact. In 1778, an article by Johann Franz Pottelin in the publications of the Royal Society of Sciences and Letters in Gothenburg detailed the alleged discovery of Carthaginian coins on Corzo, one of the Azores Islands. Carthage was founded in the 1st century BC by the Phoenicians in what is now Tunisia, North Africa, they say, whoever the Phoenicians were. A theory unpopular in mainstream archaeology, holds that the Phoenicians knew how to get to the New World, but they propagated a myth that it was impossible to cross the oceans so that they could maintain a monopoly on the trade route. So does that really sound unusual in a day and age today with so much cutthroat business practices going on? I mean, they were like the people who invented it. All right. So here's Johann Pottelin's report on the Carthaginian coins. Seems pretty scholarly. An excerpt from Johann Franz Pottelin's 1778 article in the publications of the Royal Society of Sciences and Letters in Gothenburg. And here's some drawings of the coins that he found, pretty, detailed drawings, I guess. Right. Artifacts in North America, such as petroglyphs found in Peterborough, Canada, have been cited as evidence of the trade route between the Old World and the New. Among the supporters of this theory are the late Harvard biologist turned epigrapher Barry Fell and the late Harvard archaeologist David Kelly. So these guys were Harvard-trained guys who had their own original ideas, and then, as soon as they came out with all this stuff, they were immediately blacklisted by their peers and, dismissed and forgotten about. Okay? These guys had very radical ideas, and this goes along with my own research, okay? And when I was on Coast to Coast on the 15th, which I posted, I mentioned, I mean, Michael Cremo was the one who asked me what I thought. He asked me if I thought, civilizations had visited the New World in the past. And I said, certainly during historic times, but there were precursors to that. So, something's got to be said about me at least a little bit. Give me a little bit of credit, because Michael Cremo is asking me what I think. Okay, and I talked about it a little bit. All right. Sorry, guys. Okay. Some scholars have dismissed Pottlin's account of the coins, saying that the coins may have been left there by later settlers in possession of these ancient artifacts, or they may have been fake. Well, either things are possible, I guess, but it seems why make a big deal about it, especially that far back. Or they may have been fake. Rumors about a statue found on one of the islands by early settlers have further fueled the theory that ancient settlers were there. Though the precise whereabouts of this statue, if it really existed, are now unknown, probably destroyed, no doubt. Costa believes that the Azores may indeed have been stepping stones to the New World, noting that some of the markings she has seen on Azores rocks appear similar to those studied by Fell in North America. That's pretty radical. But she said more research must be done by archaeologists on the Azores to confirm the similarities. For now, she has her hands full with relatively minor but still substantial mysteries involving the artifacts on the Azores. Stone Age calendars, okay, and that's these rocks she's talking about. And these stones with these, what she calls slits. But she's worked something fascinating out about this, and I find it fascinating. Costa has studied in a limited capacity. She has thus far been able to, without official sanction, okay, so on her own dime here, standing stones, basins, and small openings made in the rocks on the islands. The small openings or slits in the rocks have conventionally been explained as cuts made by modern settlers to facilitate quarrying the stone, but Costa thinks the cuts would not have helped in quarrying. And this is really fascinating. And here's some more of these stones with these strange slits in them that they, say were for quarrying, why they're all over the place and nobody continued to quarry. It seems kind of strange. Once you start something, you have a tendency to complete it. Instead, she thinks they may be part of a calendar system. She has noticed that whoever made these slits in the rocks avoided aligning them with the cardinal east direction. The slits closest to the cardinal east direction are smaller than the ones facing the other directions. This suggests a methodical alignment of the marks corresponding to direction. But the slits also seem to align with the solstices, suggesting a calendrical function, according to Costa. So that's fascinating right there, that she worked this kind of thing out. It's very radical. Stone Age maps. Inscriptions made on slabs of bedrock on the Azores are also similar to quote-unquote maps identified in other Stone Age rock art in mainland Europe, Costa said. She cited work by Angelo Fossati, a professor of prehistory at the Catholic University of Sacred Heart in Italy. In his book, The European Landscapes of Rock Art, Fossati wrote about Stone Age quote-unquote maps Costa feels may be comparable to the ones on the Azores. Quote, why did this prehistoric people represent maps? Do these maps represent real or imaginary territories? Are they sort of a mythical representation of the known world? Little is known about this relatively new topic of study, so it'd be interesting to see them elaborate on that quite a bit. But it is certainly a very unorthodox look at things here, and I'd love to see more research along those lines. Sacred places like those in ancient Finland. Costa also, so she's a lady, apart from that other article we read by a different journalist. Costa also compares the rock formation of the Azores to those in Lapland, the northern reaches of Finland. On the Azores, she has identified basins she thinks were cut in stone for ceremonial purposes near rock formations that naturally look like animals or people, so zoomorphic or anthropomorphic. In ancient Lapland, people also performed ceremonies near such rock formations, okay? So she's got some weird things going on here. Example of basins found near rocks that look like human faces or animals on the Azores Islands. Sort of biggish, megalithic sort of things. Look at this. Rock formations that look like animals on the Azores Islands. So, you know, like a turtle head there and a frog, toad. And here's some faces. Rock formations that look like faces on the Azores Islands. Isn't that fascinating? Okay? And we can see this with the native peoples in the Americas as well. And South America. And all over the world. Bulgaria, I mean, it's just everywhere. And it's obviously, you know, evidence in these areas of habitation and, you know, some obvious correlations made here. She cited a touch of red archaeological and ethnographic approaches to interpret the finished rock paintings by Antti Lahelmas. Quote, some of the glyphs appear to be anthropomorphic in shape, which may have made such places attention-grabbing, anomalous, and even numinous in the eyes of Stone Age hunter-gatherers. This may have contributed to a notion that not only were they inhabited by specific spirit helper beings, but also the cliffs themselves may have been thought as living beings. Okay, so these similar to Native Americans, Native peoples. Costa says she cannot confirm a relationship between the Azores and European Stone Age or Phoenician cultures, but she looks forward to studying it in further depth with greater support from Portuguese authorities. Okay, so here's some lady. Very brave lady, a hero here, thinking outside the box. She sort of got an alternative history view of things here. So it'd be nice to see her pursue these things. This article is from 2017, so it's fairly recent. And I'd like to see, you know, what she finds out on these things. It's got to be truly fascinating. All right, so let's get to the starport aspect of this because we're talking about a different thing now. As far as the starport aspect of it, the reason why I'm getting into that is because Christy McGowan, you know, a subscriber of mine, had mentioned that she was looking at these sites in the Azores and how there was some interesting sort of what seemed to her to be like megalithic constructions in the forts there that looked out of place. So I looked at some of these things, and just to show you this right off the bat, I mean, you know, star forts, I mean, are just, there's one in Portugal mainland, okay, built at a later date, that is just absolutely phenomenal, beautiful. Look, there's a whole city in there, it's huge, okay. Amazing, okay? But here is one of the constructions here on one of the islands, okay? And you can see it looks like it was cut off right here. And then they constructed some other sort of wall here and maybe some stuff inland here other than this thing here, all right? And if you continue here, it almost looks to me like the entire, we're talking about places where these starports go way back into antiquity. And then when the Portuguese found these sites here, these forts in the Azores in the 15th century, okay, they just adopted them. That's what it seems, because the whole premise seems like baloney to me, okay? You didn't know there was any habitation. There's 140 stone-built step pyramids there, but nobody was there in the past, according to the liars in the past from the Portugal government. Now they're starting to break down and get, sensible, But look at that, okay? It certainly seems to me Like the thing's been cut off, right? I mean, this is a fortress. This is a 1595 after the fact, after it was supposedly built by they don't know who, because the fellow they mentioned plans taken from this guy, okay, that they always talk about is like a broken record in these things. This one particular fellow, like this, is like a phantom. He doesn't even exist. Okay, so just to show you that right off the bat, okay, it looks like a half broken down starport that they're claiming credit of building by this phantom guy who supplied the plans, and then they cut basalt rock into perfect blocks and placed them all together, and then when all they did all the repairs later on, it was like, you know, Mr. Davis's shop class with a couple of bags of Quickcrete and some rocks for some reason. And many of these don't have any records or any documentation whatsoever. And that's rather strange since, you know, there's so many examples in some of these where they kept very detailed records. And the Portuguese were known for keeping detailed records, yet they don't know when, who did it, why, what, you know, but they're making assumptions about it based on research, old research. But we'll look at this first one here, and this is just saying there's no pictures here, no nothing for some strange reason. And these all came about because of the Portuguese succession crisis of 1580, most of them, okay? Attributed to this guy who was the corregidor, okay? He initiated the construction of several forts that ringed the coast of Terceira, one of the islands, using the plans of Italian military engineer Tommaso Benedetto. Yet his name is not hypertext. It's like he's a phantom. You don't know who he is. You got to go online and look and see who he might have been, okay, because it's very vague, okay? And here's somebody after the fact in the 16th century just recording a cache there left by the Portuguese. And then it says here, by the end of the 20th century, they're little more than ruins of this fortification, nor the remains of its foundation. So the thing's totally gone. Forget about it. Can't see it, no pictures, no nothing. Okay. This one also is a site, there's a memorial to it. It's just regurgitating the same thing over and over again. Late medieval military design by the same guy. Okay, I'm not going to go through a lot of these guys. You'll have to check them out for yourself. But it's the same baloney BS story, okay? About how they got the plans and they built these things. But after looking at some of this stuff, you're going to say no. Okay, here's a section of Starport that I'm sure they adapted, modified. Okay, same story, same phantom guy. All right. Another section, you know, there are all these like tiny little sections of Starport constructions all around the island, okay? And it's the same, they don't even put any new information. Just from one article about it to the next is the same, it's a broken record that doesn't make any sense, and it's a bunch of baloney. There's a lot of unanswered questions in there that you have to take into account. Okay, and here's one. All right, we'll look at this picture here. Okay, So in the middle of this jumble of Mr. Davis's, shop class, rock and quickcrete construction, you see these very highly refined, okay, extremely well cut, precision cut stonework with a bull nosing across the top of it, okay? And then you have the repair. Now, this was supposedly done while the island was under attack from thousands of pirates, and they had to get it done quick, okay? And this was from a time where they had time to make repairs. Okay, does that make any sense to you? And this is basalt, okay? Maybe that's why this is this way and this is this way, because see, this is basalt. It's a little tough to cut, okay, with some hand tools and make it perfectly flat and perfect block, perfectly dimensioned block, okay? And then the rest of this junk here is what they had. They had the sea probably took some of the wall down and they rebuilt it. The Portuguese did, and this the best they could, and claimed it for themselves. Okay. See, again, you see the design of this thing. It's like a section of starport. Maybe the whole island was a starport. Who the heck knows? We don't. But we got them fibbing right away about how they believe there was no habitation and blah, blah, blah. Baloney. How could you not know? It's nonsense. Okay? And then you repaired it with, your crummy construction. And again, it's the same, reiterating the same thing over and over and over again. There's no new information to add. Okay, another one, no pictures or anything, and all these maps are not plans. I like they word this. I love the way they word it. Okay, plan of the Fort of Espiritu Santo, 1881. Okay, the thing was built in 1576, but here's the plan of it in 1881. It should be written, in 1881, a relief of the plan, a relief, architectural relief was done of Fort of Espiritu. Not that it's a plan. I mean, I guess it's a plan, but it's not the plan. It's all made from these defensive plans that there's no reference to here by Tommaso Benedetto, a ghost, a shadow, with no hypertext to find out who he is. They have him in Wikipedia here. It's like blank. Just says his name. They're waiting for somebody to add something. Okay? And then all these other recountings of it is much later on. Oh, yeah, it was there, and this one said it was here, and that one said it was there. Okay? We just try to go through it because time's running out here. I'm sorry, guys. All of these are very similar. This one, okay. Fort of Greta, that's a big one. Again, these stories just read similarly. Okay, another part of the starports that are sort of all disconnected from each other at various parts of the island, the same stupid story they give over and over again. And then you have things like this, where there's nothing. There's just nothing. Okay, here's another one that looks crude, different than a lot of the other stuff. more of a starport design. Okay. Pieces of a starport. That's what I'm saying. And stuff like this. With fort that had nothing. Nothing at all. Just no information, no picture, no nothing. Okay. I wanted to show you a couple of other things here. I can find them. Like this, for example. Some of this stuff cut basalt into perfect geometric blocks. And there's just so much of it is that poorly done at later dates when they were supposedly getting money for repairs and all this kind of other stuff. So, in any case, guys, that's how a lot of these things look. Okay, like remnants of a starport with even more